What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Off the Schneid. It's been a little bit of a whirlwind the past couple of weeks, so my apologies. I didn't schedule the episode for the correct time yesterday, which is a bit of last week, which was a bit of a pain in the ass. I was a little bit busy, and then some family was visiting, so it got a little bit away from me, but we're back. I'll be on schedule now. No more messing up. And we'll be every Wednesday like we have been, 7 p.m., draft and talking best ball. So let's get into it. So my apologies there, but we're back and we'll be on schedule every week in, week out, Wednesday at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, 9 p.m. in the East. Let's get into it. We're going to do Best Ball Mania 4 draft after a little bit of content here. I want to talk about some guys that some players at some positions that I think we can find some value in. So, it's August. We have football tomorrow, the Hall of Fame game in Canton. We've got Cleveland and LA, the Chargers versus the Browns. Pretty nothing game, to be honest. Not many players that will be on this team will even be playing. A couple backups, that sort of a thing, back-end roster guys. But, hey, we got football, and I'll be watching pretty much every minute of that game, that's for sure. So it's back. Football is officially back starting tomorrow. So let's get into this. I want to talk about structure of winning teams for a second here. So if you look at the past two winners of Best Ball Mania, obviously Chess Liam in 2021 and then Pat Kerrane last year. So for quarterbacks, the way that they kind of structured their teams, Liam, he drafted Josh Allen was his winning quarterback and his big quarterback. I think he drafted him in the 4th or 5th round, something like that. And then Pat Kerrane. So I'm just going to close this window. There we go. Pat Kerrane last year, no one until I think it was 9 or 10 with Tom Brady and then Danny Dimes. Yes, you can say he may not have won if that, Monday Night Football game, Bengals, Bills, if that game had happened, he maybe wouldn't have won the Best Ball Mania. Who knows? It is what it is. But that's the way that they structured it. So how are we going to win this tournament or any big tournament for that matter? But we're talking about Best Ball Mania in specific right now. You could use this for puppies as well. But either way, it doesn't appear to me that teams that draft a quarterback in rounds 1, 2, even 3, it doesn't appear to me that they will end up, winning these tournaments. That's just what I've seen the past 2 seasons. So we need to find some value somewhere along the way. And I don't think it's going to be 3 quarterbacks late. I think we're going to be looking at the middle rounds, whether we do it a double tap at the turn, something like that, or if it's just, one quarterback ends up hitting for us. So who do I think these quarterbacks can be? I'm going to give you 2 in each position, 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends. Let's kick it off. Like I said, a quarterback, the number 1 guy that I'm targeting right this second. And this isn't crazy. This isn't a hot take, but it's Justin Herbert. So I just want to talk about him a little bit. Things that people may or may not remember, to be honest with you. He had 395 fantasy points 2 years ago in 2021. That's the 4th highest quarterback total in the last 2 seasons. So for me, there's realistically no reason why he should be going after Justin Fields. Yes, I understand Justin Fields has the rushing, upside, but Justin Herbert has the rushing touchdown upside. So I'm not really concerned there. Plus, he has the ability to throw literally 40 touchdowns. So I'm taking that. It's a little more, a little less risk in my opinion when he's not running like Justin Fields is running around out there. He's able to sit in the pocket and just bang touchdown passes all day. And again, 4th highest in the last 4 years. This team is arguably better than they were at that time. The biggest reason here is Kellen Moore. So Kellen Moore comes in, and the quote from Mike McCarthy, his former boss, was, Kellen Moore doesn't care about winning football games. He only cares about he only cares about scoring points. So for me, that's all I care about when I'm looking for my fantasy football quarterback is points and scoring points. The Dallas Cowboys were top 6 in points in 3 of the 4 years Kellen Moore was the offensive coordinator in Dallas. They were 1st in total offense in 2 of those 4 years. In the other 2 years that they weren't, Dak Prescott wasn't healthy. Top 2 in passing in 2 of the 4 years, 8th in the other year, again, where Dak Prescott wasn't healthy, and then 14th last year, again, when Dak Prescott was hurt. So if we're looking at it this way, if Kellen Moore can do this with Dak Prescott, who everybody loves to hate, I don't hate Dak Prescott personally, but a lot of people do. It's a guy that everybody loves to hate. So if Kellen Moore can do this stuff with Dak Prescott, imagine what he can do with Justin Herbert, who's paid, has tons of targets, decent offensive line. For this guy, for Justin Herbert, I need more exposure. I'm just checking my Best Ball Mania exposure compared to my overall season exposure. He's my 4th highest owned quarterback total in all of my drafts and leagues, but I only have him in 2 of my, I think 43 or something like that, 43, 44 best ball drafts. And that's pretty unacceptable to me. So I'm going to start reaching for him, taking him early, taking him in the late 40s. I'm going to start taking him naked if I have to, and I'll figure out stacking later. You can bring back, Gerald Everett, Josh Palmer, Quentin Johnston, those guys. You can bring them back later if you really need to or really want to, or bring back the Denver side of the game, that sort of a thing. But either way, I got to start getting more Justin Herbert, and I'm going to start doing just that. So that's the first quarterback that I think we need to pay a little more attention to. This is a guy that I think is right there with Josh Allen 2 years ago. To be honest, he's with Josh Allen right now, in my opinion. So we need to be drafting him more. He should be getting ahead of Justin Herbert. He has risen since the last time I talked about it on this channel, but only by about, a pick in ADP. So there's room there. Next guy I'm talking about is always a polarizing topic. So, people are going to always hate this guy. It is what it is. I don't agree with a lot of things. I thought he should have been suspended for the entire season last year, at least. I think the Browns should have been penalized more than they were as a franchise for giving him the contract they did, and considering, what he was being accused of. The truth is going to lie somewhere in the middle. I don't really want to dig into that too much. My take on it is, if there's smoke, there's fire. Do I think he's 100% guilty? No, I do not. Do I think he's 100% innocent? Absolutely not. So the truth lies somewhere in the middle, and the only people that know the absolute unequivocal truth is Deshaun Watson and these 24 ladies that accused him of doing whatever it is he did. So that's my take on it, and we'll leave it there. We're going to talk about the football side of this right now. Should be more comfortable in this offense, second year in this offense with the team, should be more comfortable in the city and his surroundings. Again, it's his second year here. It's his full off season. He can be with the team the whole time. He can play in the preseason, everything like that. He should be 100% completely focused on football now, given that he's gotten this second chance that, not a lot of people think he deserves, and not a lot of people maybe thought he would even get. I thought he should have been suspended longer, maybe even into this year, but here we are. He's back. He's been given this second chance. It's time for him to take advantage of it on the football field. Forget what you feel about him personally. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, he's a fantasy asset is what we're talking about. Do I know Deshaun Watson as a human being? No, I do not. But I do know him as a fantasy football asset. So that's what I can talk about. For my money, the Browns have probably one of, if not the best offensive line in football right now. Nice complement of receivers and weapons for him. He's got Amari Cooper there, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Elijah Moore, David Njoku, even Harrison's still there. Cedric Tillman comes in as a rookie, all that kind of stuff. So he has all the weapons he needs. In my opinion, if this team doesn't succeed this year, if the Browns don't win games, and if Deshaun Watson doesn't play well, most importantly, if the Browns don't win games, we're going to see some changes in the coaching staff, in my opinion. I think Kevin Stefanski might be on the hot seat, especially if they don't win ball games this year. And we could see something shift, whether Alex Van Pelt gets stripped of the play calling duties, and then Kevin Stefanski just calls plays, and he's head coach and offensive coordinator. Or, worst case scenario for Kevin Stefanski, they to a bad start, he gets fired. Jim Schwartz, who was just hired as a defensive coordinator, former head coach with the Philadelphia Eagles, he can come in and coach this team. I think that something like that could happen if this team doesn't succeed. And I think that they're going to have every opportunity to. So we'll see what happens. But I think Deshaun Watson's a value here at QB9. I think he should not necessarily get ahead of Trevor Lawrence, but I think that he should be higher than he is. There's a big time gap right here between an ADP between QB8 and QB9. So Trevor Lawrence is QB8, 65.8 ADP. Deshaun Watson, QB9, 83.9. So I'm not saying that he needs to get ahead of Justin Herbert, but I think that there's room for his ADP to get, a little lower. That's for sure. It hasn't really moved since the early big board season, but typically quarterbacks fall, to be honest. So it's interesting that he's stayed the same. I still think that there's room for him to go up if you're asking me. Let's move on to the running back position. So a couple guys, obviously, zero RB, hero RB, robust. There's all these terms thrown around. It's the proof is kind of in the pudding that you don't necessarily have to, follow any certain structure. Pat Kerrane went RB, ended up winning the whole tournament. The guy who won, King Cap, who won the regular season best ball $1 million last year, he was kind of zero RB. Either way, you need to get a mid or late round running back that's going to hit for you and put up points, be an every week contributor, flex guy, that sort of a thing. So who are the two running backs that I have in mind? One guy I've talked about on the show before, and I've drafted an absolute ton of. I'm going to keep drafting him all the way up if he keeps going up. His ADP is rising slowly, but I think it'll rise even more, especially as we get into August with a little more casual drafting coming in, and all RB ADPs will rise. And that's Rachaad White. So with this team, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, there's just an insane amount of parallels between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers of this year, 2023, and the Seattle Seahawks of 2022 last year. Dave Canales comes in, he's the offensive coordinator. He was the offensive coordinator, passing game and quarterbacks coach last year with Seattle, but either way, he was involved. He comes over to Tampa Bay. He's going to run the ball to set up the pass. In my opinion, that's the way they did it in Seattle. That's the way they always have since Pete Carroll's been there. And that's what I think they're going to do here, especially with a defensive head coach. So they're going to run the ball, set up the pass, set up play action, that sort of a thing. They got a young, the QB battles, parallel. It's the exact same. They got a young, unproven, younger quarterback in Kyle Trask, who, by the way, I might add, OurLads.com just moved him into the starting quarterback position on their depth chart. So that's that's what I use for my depth charts. So that's really, really interesting. I like Kyle Trask. I think he should start, but that's another story for another day that I actually told last week. But and then an old dusted quarterback in Baker Mayfield, much like Geno Smith and Drew Lock last year in Seattle. So regardless of who wins, there's an unproven or old and dusted quarterback, which should lead to a little more running the ball. The offensive line is again very similar to Seattle. In Seattle's case, they just had a ton of young guys that were completely unproven. With this Tampa Bay Buccaneer team, they got Matt Filer, who was hurt last year. He comes in, but he was very, very good when he was good. Ryan Jensen comes back from injury again. He was off all of last year. He comes back. And then they got Cody Mock in the second round, young, unproven offensive lineman, but a second rounder. And then, they got basically a sixth O lineman at tight end in O'Keefe. And then Cade Otton's no slouch as well. So I could definitely see this team, and it's perfectly set up. This Tampa Bay Buccaneers team is perfect, and offense is perfectly set up to be, with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin to just lead the NFL in 12 personnel percentage. I think that that's absolutely going to be the case. They probably run it, 40% of the time, something like that, 30% of the time, something crazy. It's gonna be an absolute ton, which I think they'll run the ball off of an absolute ton. So we'll see how it plays out, but I think Rachaad White is going to be a steal at this ADP. And this is coming from a guy who actually really, really did not like Rachaad White coming out of college. I didn't like him last year for this team, but here we are. Now I've done nothing but tout him and hype him up. So we'll see what happens. But I really, really like Rachaad White. I think he can blow this ADP out of the water. And he's the perfect zero RB candidate. He's the perfect guy to draft as your first RB. He really is, in my opinion. And I've done it in a few drafts where I wait, I fill out my, I go wide receivers and then quarterback, tight end. Then I take my first running back and Rachaad White, fill it out that way. And then what do I do after Rachaad White? Typically, I'm going to bring in a guy like AJ Dillon, who I think is, again, another steal. Running back 33, ADP 101.6. He's the perfect kind of zero RB candidate as another one of them, right? Why? He's like 10 points per game floor RB all day long with a bunch of upside. So if anything should happen to Aaron Jones, he takes on a complete running back role, a bell cow role, which would be unreal for my exposure. I'll tell you that much. Young and unproven quarterback again with Jordan Love, an experienced, really good offensive line, but they have to stay healthy. This offensive line just has to stay healthy and stay on the field because they keep not drafting offensive linemen early and talented offensive linemen. They keep not drafting them, which is kind of frustrating me, but it is what it is. They still have a good offensive line if they're all on the field. So we'll see how that works out. This team should finally, and they should, and I really hope they finally do, lean on this running game. They should have done it last year with Aaron Rodgers. He's a little banged up. I don't know why they didn't run the ball with this two-headed backfield. They have an opportunity to do it again. And hopefully this time they actually lean on it completely with A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. We'll see how it shakes out. And hopefully they finally do that because it's their best opportunity to win football games. Still a very good defense. Like I said, decent offensive line. Quarterback position takes a step back, so they need to run the ball to stay in some ball games here. Still has some fairly fresh and absolutely massive tree trunks for legs, and he's entering his prime. He's 25 years old. He's a solid pass catcher. He's always been a pass catcher. He's averaged 40 targets and 31 catches over the last 2 seasons. In each of the last 2 seasons, that's been his average. So I think, all things considered, with his upside to be, an absolute workhorse, should anything happen to Aaron Jones, there's every opportunity, I think, for the Packers that they have 2,000-yard rushers this year. I really, really think that with obviously Aaron Jones and then here with A.J. Dillon, that would be pretty crazy. I think it's possible if they lean on the run game. And this is another team that could do a lot of 12 personnel, but I don't think they will too much with the tight ends that they took. And they're a little more pass catching tight ends. So they do have Josiah DeGuara, but another story for another day. We got wide receiver position here. We're looking for the 2021 Cooper Kupp. That would be great, but we also just need wide receivers that are going to give us value. Wide receiver and tight end, just give us value for where you're getting drafted at. Give us value at your ADP. And who's a guy? The first guy that I think can give us some value at his current ADP, might be a bit of a hot take because no one seems to like him, but his ADP isn't moving. So people are still drafting him, including me. That's Deebo Samuel, wide receiver 18, ADP 33.9. So he had 300 points exactly in 2021, 140 last year in 2022. You average that out, that's 220 points. If he averaged that puts him right up there with Jalen Waddle at about ADP 17. So that gives us about 17 picks, a full round plus of value if he should hit those numbers. Let's talk about if he can or should or will hit those numbers. So dude's 27 years old. He's in the middle of his prime. He's in his prime right now. I feel like everyone has just forgotten how good Deebo Samuel is at football. He had a down year. It happens. Not everyone can just smash every single year. Not everybody's, Devontae Adams. He's going to have some down years. And realistically, this was his first really bad year that, he pulled back, but he was riddled with injuries. So let's talk about a little bit of the stats and things like that. In 3 fully healthy games, because he was injured. He played 5 total games with Brock Purdy, but was injured in 2 of them and left early. So in 3 fully healthy games with Brock Purdy at quarterback, he averaged 18.8 points per game. So that's more than fine. If he does exactly that in 16, 17 healthy games this year, boom, he just beat his ADP 100%. People like to talk about, he won't run the ball anymore. He's not going to run the ball with Christian McCaffrey there and Eli Mitchell. He's not going to run the ball. Well, in the 5 games, let's talk about before. Let's do before and after Brock Purdy. So before Brock Purdy, he was averaging 3.3 carries per game. After Brock Purdy comes in, he's averaging 3.2 carries per game. So call it 3 and a bit. You know what I mean? 3 carries per game. And then before Brock Purdy comes in, he's averaging 7.6 targets per game. After Brock Purdy comes in, 6.8 targets per game. 4.4 average catches per game in the entire season with or without Brock Purdy. So that hasn't changed. So we're looking at essentially 7 to 8 total touches at more or less a minimum per game. And that's all you need out of Deebo Samuel, in my opinion. That's all you need for him to be able to put up the numbers that we saw a couple years ago. Obviously, and the little caveat here, and this is no, I'm not breaking the mold here. It depends on his touchdown production. He had 14 touchdowns, in 2021. He's going to need to get, 10 total to kind of get to where I need him to beat this ADP. I'm banking on it. He gives a quote basically saying that, him and Kyle Shanahan sat down, they watched tape from last year, and this guy's embarrassed. Deebo Samuel was embarrassed about his play last year. He said he won't put anything like that on tape ever again. And then kind of funny, basically he's been, working harder in the offseason. He's been working out and making Kyle Shanahan a little uncomfortable with how many topless, shirtless, pics he's sending him. Just svelte 27-year-old dude sending you topless pics of himself all offseason. So Kyle Shanahan's getting a little uncomfortable with all these ripped up, muscled up pics of Deebo Samuel he's getting. So dude's in shape and he's embarrassed about last year. He's ready to go. I'm excited to see what Deebo Samuel can do this year. I'm fully back on board the Deebo train in 2023. So I think he can beat his ADP. I like where he's going, and I'm going to keep gobbling him up. Another wide receiver I want to talk about, Elijah Moore. Obviously, this kind of piggybacks off of Deshaun Watson that we're talking about. Wide receiver 44, ADP 86.5. Basically, my biggest thing with Elijah Moore is there's tons of camp buzz coming out about him and his connection with Deshaun Watson. They're looking really good, everything like that. He's motivated with the change of scenery. He has the speed that Deshaun Watson likes in his wide receivers. And you just can't convince me that, the often injured, healthy last year, but often injured Amari Cooper is just going to be the guy. I think even with a healthy Amari Cooper, who's 29, turning 30 years old, Elijah Moore has every opportunity to be the lead wide receiver in this offense. If something like that happens, this could be this year's Cooper Kupp. I don't think he comes close to putting the numbers up. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's going to lead the league in targets, catches, yards, touchdowns, triple crown. I'm not saying that about Elijah Moore. What I'm saying is he can destroy his ADP so badly that he's, the equivalent of Cooper Kupp. That's the way I'm looking at Elijah Moore. So with those options that I laid out, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Cedric Tillman, David Njoku, the only guy that you can say comfortably is better, 100% is better than Elijah Moore is Amari Cooper. And I'm okay with you saying that, but I'm also thinking there's a possibility, there's a route to him being the number one wide receiver in this offense. And if anything should happen to, again, the often injured Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore could absolutely take off, smash this ADP, and be, again, the equivalent of this year's, 2021 Cooper Kupp. So that's the guy that I like. I'm going to be drafting a ton more of him. 2 tight ends for you, and then we'll get into a draft. Darren Waller, I'm buying the hype. So if we're looking at where the tight ends are going right now, he's going tight end 7. I think that it's very, very possible. I'm putting him as potentially my tight end 4 right now. So Dallas Goedert, Kyle Pitts, George Kittle. I think he can get ahead of all of those guys and be the tight end 4, potentially higher. Back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons with the Oakland at the time Raiders. Team moves to Vegas. I'm not really sure what's going on there. I completely was given up on Darren Waller last year. Didn't draft him at all. Throughout the season, I was on another channel. I did nothing but badmouth him. It just didn't seem like he wanted to play football anymore. Is how, like, with quotes that I got from interviews and things that he had said and his play on the field, it didn't seem like Darren Waller wanted to play football anymore. But maybe He just didn't want to play football in Las Vegas anymore. With the fiasco that was going on there with John Gruden, they're bringing in other weapons, Devontae Adams. They're switching things up. They're giving up on Derek Carr. The offensive line is in shambles. They're having issues with Josh Jacobs right now, not wanting to pay him, things like that. It just seems like this organization is in shambles. So maybe Darren Waller just didn't want to play in Las Vegas anymore, which I can totally understand. Gets a fresh start over in New York, across the country. He very well could be the focal part of this offense besides Saquon Barkley, the focal part of this passing offense, I'll say that. And then, get up to that one. He got up to 140 targets a couple years ago, 140 targets. I'm not saying he gets quite there, but if he even gets to 100, 110 targets, he can smash this ADP. He can get up to tight end 4, and he can give us some value. Again, that's all we're looking for with these picks. We're looking for value in the wide receiver and tight end rooms here, where we can, break the mold with our ADP and then get value there while we're getting some better players earlier in the draft, right? Where we're filling up our running back and wide receiver rooms, and then we smash these tight ends a little bit later, and then they destroy their ADP. We end up with a better team. That's the way I'm looking at it. And I'm just buying the hype with Darren Waller. Buying the hype. It just kind of is what it is. I got to get on board or else I'm going to get left at the station. I have been drafting him all summer, but not enough. I'm gonna start clicking his name a little more, very intentionally. So that's the first one. Last tight end I got Cole Kmet, tight end 17, ADP 150.2. Reason why I see there's a lot of value here with Cole Kmet, couple reasons. Number one, the offense got better in Chicago. Justin Fields just take a step forward. The offensive line got better. DJ Moore's there. Chase Claypool's there in another year, but whatever on that. Darnell Mooney's back, but the big one is DJ Moore and the offensive line and another year of experience with Justin Fields. Then you look at the tight ends that are going ahead of Cole Kmet. You got Gerald Everett. He scored more points than Gerald Everett last year. You got Tyler Higbee. He scored more points than Tyler Higbee last year. Chig Okonkwo, more points. Dalton Schultz, more points. Dalton Kincaid, no chance he scores more than Kmet, in my opinion. Greg Dulcich, I think he can beat out. So realistically, there's all those guys, that bumps him up to tight end 11. If he can beat out all those guys points wise, which I think that it's honestly, I think it's 100%, almost 100% possible that he does that. Realistically, again, all of these guys, he scored more points than last year. It's not like he's old and dusted. He's not Gerald Everett. I'm not saying he's dusted, but he's older. And there's more weapons there. There's more mouths to feed in LA than, Gerald Everett getting the ball. So for me, I'm taking Cole Kmet ahead of all those guys unless I'm stacking things like that. But yeah, I think he can blow this ADP out of the water. I think he can get up all the way up. He could potentially be a top 10 tight end, realistically. That's not saying a lot because the top 10 tight ends, pretty easy. And that's not an extreme difference in scoring, but I think he can get there. So this is a value. And again, that's all we're looking for is value. So there you go. A little bit of content. Let's get into a draft. That's hopefully what everybody came for. Looking at the rankings a little bit. We're going to do Best Ball Mania. If you're in the chat, jump in. Just over 50% filled, looking for 9 people. Should be a fun draft. I'm hoping for a certain draft position, and I'm hoping to draft a certain player because I have not taken enough of this player in the first round. So I will be picking him if he's available. Starting to fill, but waiting for 4. And that's important to do as well. That's something I definitely want to talk about quickly is just taking a look at not only your exposure, but separating your tournaments. Like I have 3 Dalmatians. I want to know what my exposure was. That's the max entry for the Dalmatians. I have 3. I want to know my exposure on those teams. I want to know my exposure on Best Ball Mania. So again, the example of Justin Herbert. He's my 4th highest owned quarterback in the entire best ball season so far, but I only have 2 shares in, I think, 44 drafts in Best Ball Mania. That's just not really acceptable. So I got to get my ass in gear and get some more shares of them. Let's see who we recognize here. I think I know Andrew Waller. The Mitch 17, I believe is, I can't remember his name, but I know him on the Twitter machine. Bunch of badges. This should be interesting. This should be a good one. More badges than typical. Typically, you don't get a ton of badges, and then there's some crazy shit that happens in these drafts. So we'll see. We'll see. If you're in the draft and you're in the chat, put a message in. Let me know. Let me know where you're picking at, and we'll have some fun. All right, pick number 1. On Twitter or X, Davis Pang says, get a tissue. What's going on there? Oh, he's talking about the Terrace Marshall catch. Little highlight of Terrace Marshall in camp. You betcha. He's probably my highest exposed player is Terrace Marshall, so pretty well known. I'm a huge backer. Love Terrace Marshall this year. I'll be drafting him as much as I can if I'm getting him in the 18th round, which is where you can get him. He's still going undrafted sometimes, which to me is criminal. But in my opinion, or not in my opinion, my hope is if I'm not drafting him, I don't want anyone drafting him. I want him to go undrafted unless I'm drafting him. But it won't take long. With the highlight coming out on Twitter, that's all it takes. That's all it takes to up ADPs. It's kind of crazy. McCaffrey goes 2 instead of Chase. That's a little bit interesting. Cooper Kupp at 6th overall. That's nice value right there. At the 110, this is typically where I pick. I've had literally 1 Justin Jefferson share. 1 time in 44 drafts in Best Ball Mania. 1 time I've gotten the 101. So that's fun. All right, we're almost on the clock. The player that I want is still there, and there he goes. I'm trying to get more Bijan Robinson, way more Bijan Robinson. I think I'm going to take A.J. Brown here. I don't have enough of him either. And I just love the Eagles' playoff schedule. I really, really, really like the Eagles' playoff schedule. So I have too much Devontae Smith and not enough A.J. Brown. That's kind of what I'm trying to do as well, is just kind of even out my exposure on that team. And I have an absolute ton of Kenny Gainwell, a little bit of DeAndre Swift, and a little bit of Rashad Penny. So I won't be taking a Philly running back most likely with this team, but we'll see how it shakes out. Devontae at 11. Wow. That's actually kind of rare. CD Amon-Ra, that's going to be so not unique. It's, if that's the game to own, you're almost going to have to be perfect. Nick Chubb or Saquon Barkley. Let's go Nick Chubb. Let's go Nick Chubb. Could be RB1 this year, even without a ton of the pass catching, even though I think he'll get more pass catching work than he ever has. I think this could be, a career season as far as pass catching for Nick Chubb, but we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. I don't think I have a ton of this start, so it should be unique for me with Chubb and Brown. And then we'll figure out some correlation later. Mark Andrews at 19 overall. Really wants to get Cooper Kupp, Mark Andrews, and Lamar Jackson, I think. That would be unique. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with trying to get unique with these tournaments. Should we talk a little bit of news? I was watching Road to 150, Davis Pang and Hope Bishop. Shout out to those guys. I was watching that last night. They were talking, or we were kind of talking. I was talking in the chat about Jahmyr Gibbs a little bit. Really interesting player this year. No one seemed to love his ADP, but it hasn't moved. He doesn't slip either. It's not often, or you don't see him. When you're sitting there at pick 48, you don't see Jahmyr Gibbs ever. So it's really interesting. It's a lot like Deebo Samuel. His ADP just hasn't moved, but everybody kind of poo-poos on him a little bit. So it's really, really interesting how that works. So somebody's picking him. Same thing with Breece Hall. Where's Breece Hall? There he is. Same thing. I'm not picking a ton of Breece Hall at all. Even with the rumors about Dalvin Cook and everything, we haven't really seen Breece Hall move too much, which is kind of crazy to me. I literally personally have 0% exposure in Breece Hall right now. And I don't see that changing, not at this ADP. He would have to fall, honestly, below Najee for me. I might take him before Travis Etienne, but I don't think I'm picking him before Najee. And even Jahmyr Gibbs, I need to be a little more intentional taking some more Jahmyr Gibbs just because, the potential is there for him to have a pretty good rookie season and pay off his ADP. I'm not saying he's going to beat it because it's pretty lofty. It's kind of at his ceiling realistically as a rookie. But he could pay off that ADP, I think. Kenny Pickett, what's going on here? Is this going to get canceled? So annoying. What are you even doing? You start Mahomes, Kelsey, Mahomes, then you take Kenny Pickett out of nowhere. What are we doing? I'll be really frustrated. We're going to go through this whole draft, and if it gets, canceled, I'm going to be really annoyed. I'll have to keep an eye on this guy, Jarking. Fuck, that's annoying. Really, really annoying when shit like that happens. Plus, it makes you think there's something fishy going on. Oh, this guy didn't take Lamar. You just reached on Mark Andrews? Okay. This is an interesting room. Weird room we got going on here. So all that talk in the pre-show about Deebo Samuel, and look who's staring me in the face. Deebo Samuel. Can't not. I'm gonna take him. Absolutely. AJ Brown, Deebo Samuel, started wide receiver, Nick Chubb. Really don't mind that. This is gonna drive me nuts. If this gets canceled, I'm gonna be really, really annoyed. I really hate going through a whole draft process and then having it just refunded to you before the season starts. I'm gonna have to label this one. Might get canceled. Kenny Pickett at 29th overall. God. Started so normal too. Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes. Frustrating stuff. So, I probably would have taken Jahmyr Gibbs there. Or Keenan Allen. So here we are. It's either going to be Christian Watson or Najee Harris. I've been taking a lot of Christian Watson or Jerry Jeudy. Could just go with Jerry Jeudy. And I might do that. I'm going to go Jerry Jeudy. I think he just has the highest upside here. I've been taking a lot of Christian Watson because as it sits right now, I've been taking a lot of, Minnesota and Green Bay players as I kind of can. It makes sense to pick those players. They're both decent teams. They play each other in week 17, and it could be a high scoring game. But the reason why I'm picking them is that right now is set up as the final game in, fantasy football. It's Sunday Night Football on New Year's Eve, week 17. December 31st, it will lead to a very, very fun New Year's Eve party for somebody out there. And it could be because Christian Watson's that guy that you need. Scores 2 touchdowns against the very weak secondary in Minnesota, 2 long touchdown passes. And he's the guy you need in week 17 to win $3 million. I think that's very possible. That's part of the reason why I've been taking a fair amount of Christian Watson. Obviously, the big play potential, spike week potential, stuff like that. Let's see who this idiot picks. If it's someone crazy, I'm going to be really perturbed. Can he pick it out of nowhere? That's interesting. Some sort of weird auto draft, maybe. I don't know. I don't know why you'd have him in your queue. I don't know why you'd have him in your queue at all. If it was like Justin Ross or something, that would have made more sense, to be honest. But yikes. I don't know if that's enough, grounds to cancel the draft. So we'll kind of keep an eye on it. I really hate when drafts get canceled. I really, really hate it. Underdog does a good job of keeping it under wraps, better than what I've heard from DraftKings. I don't do best ball on DraftKings personally. I don't fill up enough tournaments on Underdog that I need the action to go over there. Underdog does enough, contests that I can do all my best ball drafting on Underdog, and that is what I do. So, until I need to, or I guess I see an edge, but all the shit that's been going on DK with, people stacking drafts and just doing nonsense, I just don't have time for that shit. So I'll stick to Underdog where they police it very well, cancel drafts, ban people, that sort of thing. I'll stay on Underdog for now. Deshaun Watson goes way too early. That's interesting. Weird draft already. I thought this would be a little more normal because there's lots of badges in here, but boy, was I wrong. This is a pretty wild draft room so far. A lot of things don't make a ton of sense. George Kittle goes pretty early. Deshaun Watson goes pretty early. Kenny Pickett goes at 29th overall. That's ridiculous. But what are we going to do here? Let's see. Kind of a hero, if you will, RB build right now as it sits. But it depends on what I do with my next pick here. I mean, if Joe Burrow's still there, I'll take him. And unless this guy picks him, he probably will be. And if he is, why not? I'll take naked Joe Burrow here at 10 picks past ADP value. Doesn't make sense not to be honest with you. Wow. Interesting. Unless this guy wants to take 2 quarterbacks in the first 5 rounds, which would be kind of silly, then I'll be taking a naked Joe Burrow. Easy. If this is, injury news making Joe Burrow fall a little bit, that's a crazy overreaction for me. I'll take him naked here, no problem. 10 points past ADP. Wasn't my plan, but you can't let Joe Burrow slip because this one of these guys would have taken him. Neither guy has a quarterback. There's no way he's getting back to me at 63. So I'll take him naked, take the value. Absolutely. I'm not overreacting. Look behind me. I'm not overreacting. I'll take Joe Burrow at a discount every single day, twice on Sundays. Could go with Marquise Brown. Pair him up, mini stack A.J. Brown on week 17. Could use a Washington Commander at some point to pair up with Debo. A Jet, Charger, Kansas City Chief. I'm going to have to bring it back with Joe Burrow later down in line in the draft. I'll be targeting Tyler Boyd. We'll see where he goes. I would have taken TJ Hawkinson for sure right there. Now, do I want to go? I think I got to go and again take the value with Aaron Jones here. That's just way too much value to pass up. Plus, again, like I said, week 17, final game of the fantasy football season, Sunday Night Football. Aaron Jones goes off for 3 touchdowns, 150 total yards against the Minnesota Vikings. Off the Schneid wins $3 million. Let's go. Let's go. So let's see what happens here with these friggin' picks. This is getting. I really hope this doesn't get killed. The only one that would do it is maybe this Kenny Pickett, but the guy's been normal since then. So strange. Kelsey Mahomes, Kenny Pickett, Christian Watson, Mike Williams. Very, very strange what you're doing there, pal. Deshaun Watson went a little early, but that's not enough to do anything to cancel a draft. But let's see what Jar King does after making a couple normal picks. I'm going to have to start looking for some correlation here. I was worried about the quarterback position, but Joe Burrow kind of fell in my lap, so that is amazing. But I'm going to have to start picking up some correlation with some game stacks, some mini stacks. Not only week 17, week 15 or 15, 16 as well. You got to get there. That was another big reason for I would have liked Minnesota with Joe Burrow in week 15 against Cincinnati. They play Green Bay in week 17, so I'll definitely be looking to pick up a Minnesota Viking at some point. Jordan Addison goes, but that's okay. I really like KJ Osborne. I could bring it back with, Ty Chandler if I really wanted. I'll be picking up a Minnesota Viking pretty well for sure because it correlates with 2 of my main players in the playoffs of my core. Jordan Addison, that's normal. Everything seems okay. So strange. Kenny Pickett, 27th overall. 29th overall, sorry. I don't know what to tell you about that one. If you're in the draft, let me know in the chat. I think I know the Mitch 17. Pretty common, Tyreek, and then full Eagle stack. I like that with Dallas Goedert late. Only pick I don't love, Travis Etienne here. But who else are you going to take? Kenny Walker. I would rather Kenny Walker personally, but I can't blame you. Jags have a good playoff schedule. Don't hate that pick. I just don't completely love it, I guess. Could have waited too. Could have waited. Could have went with Nuke Hopkins. Yeah, something like that. 77K. This guy's picking normal again. I don't know where this came from. Kenny Pickett, 29th overall. Pretty strange. 82. Who are we going to be taking? That's right in the wheelhouse for a guy who's hyping up pre-show. Rashad White. But I don't think I'll be taking him with this build. I'm probably going to go certainly, not going to take running back right now, at least not likely. So I also don't want to overlap bye weeks. Not that that completely matters, but with the way I feel like I'm going to build this team, I think it will matter. So I'm going to hang on that. Man, if Trevor Lawrence is there, do I have to take Trevor Lawrence and take the value here? Jeez. There he goes. Perfect. I did not want to even make that decision. I'm going to avoid bye week 9 at wide receiver only because I don't want to have my core players all sitting out in 1 week and just basically punting a week. Not that that's the end of the world. It's not going to kill anything. I'm going to draft enough wide receivers that'll have guys contributing, but not that it matters because there's no wide receiver in here that, I think can, or that's by week 9 anyways. Elijah Moore, I was talking up a bunch, but I don't want to take him with Nick Chubb. I do like Elijah Moore a ton. I think I'm going to have to go with Quentin Johnston here. Take a shot that he's the downfield threat. And if there's an injury to Mike Williams, like there's been pretty much every single year, Quentin Johnston could go pretty nuclear. I love that offense. I just typed up Justin Herbert pre-show, pretty huge. And if Justin Herbert has that kind of season, Quentin Johnston's gonna be, he's gonna benefit from that. So I'll take him there. Definitely looking. I think I'm gonna go wide receiver again, to be honest with you. Kind of a modified hero RB build, I guess. Got value with both. I guess you could say that's value, not really 2 picks with Nick Chubb, but value with Aaron Jones for sure. Almost a full round past ADP. I was going to take Brandon Cooks. Could go Zay Flowers, but no correlation, and I just don't want to. I'm just going to talk myself into Rachaad White, aren't I? Yeah. That's all right. I'll take Rachaad White. Now I might have to go with 6 RBs on this build. I was thinking about only going 5, and I still might, depending on my other 2 are. We'll see where it gets to. We'll see where it gets to when it comes back around. Won't be going AJ Dillon. Won't be going Rashad Penny. Could go B-Rob, Damian Harris, things like that. We'll see who comes back around. Little RB run right here. James Conner, Davis Pang's boy. His injury history concerns me with James Conner. And he's getting older. Yes, he's the biggest part of that offense right now. I agree with that. I do like Hollywood Brown, but again, he's relatively often injured. I just feel like this entire team is kind of going to fall apart, and it's just going to be a punt season for the Arizona Cardinals. And they're just going to be tanking for Caleb Williams. It's kind of just how I see it. So everything I said about Rachaad White, I think he could get 100 catches this year. I really do. I think he can catch 100 footballs for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think they're going to lead the league in 12 personnel. I think he's going to get 220 carries roughly. Could push for 100 catches and just obliterate this ADP. Interesting build. I haven't built a team like this. This has got to be unique for me, and it's got to be unique realistically for anyone. I would imagine getting this much value on both Aaron Jones and Joe Burrow. This has got to be kind of a unique build, and it's, like I said, definitely unique for me because I haven't built a team like this. I don't have a roster like this, that's for sure. It's interesting. So definitely trying to bring this back with somebody here. I got to start getting some correlation, some mini stacks. I got to start bringing it back. I got this with Jerry Jeudy and Quentin Johnston. I like that. I need some Chiefs. I need some Bengals. I need a Viking. At least I would like those players. Jameson Williams. Let's talk about Jameson Williams a little bit. I'm worried there's going to be a complete bust. And I have him on 2 teams right now, fantasy dynasty teams. Nothing to do with best ball, but I have Jameson Williams on 2 teams, and I'm really concerned that he's just going to be a complete bust, a complete dud, and I'm going to be left holding the bag with Jameson Williams. So I'm obviously the ACL injury. It is what it is. He came back. He did play, caught a touchdown pass, a long one. That's exactly what they got him for. And then gambles on sports and gets suspended for 6 games, 8 games. Really, really annoying. And pretty unacceptable. And then he's struggling, throwing punches in training camp. That's really just nothing's looking good for Jameson Williams, to be honest with you. Obviously taking Tyler Boyd here. Need to bring back with Joe Burrow, who I got some super value on. Taking Boyd right at ADP. That's easy. Love that. 1350 as it sits. Could go running back. Could go with another wide receiver. Could go tight end. But either way, it's nothing's looking good for Jameson Williams. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Nothing is looking good. His reps in practice aren't looking good. Getting in fights, gambling after an injury. Detroit Lions haven't had a lot of luck with first-round running back or wide receivers outside of Megatron. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with that one, where it lands, where it finishes. But I'm not super excited for the way it looks right now. I could go with Samaje Perine. I can't justify Nico Collins at his ADP, which is rising too, which is insane to me. I think I'm going to have to go with Antonio Gibson. I haven't taken him in a little while. I'm certainly not fading him, but I haven't taken him in a little while. He lines up with Debo, week 17 matchup. Definitely another value. Another round past ADP. So that's 3 guys on this roster that I've taken more or less a full round past ADP. You got Joe Burrow, 10 picks, almost a round. Aaron Jones, 11 picks, pretty much a full round. Antonio Gibson, 13 picks, a full round. You can't pass up that ADP value. You just can't pass up the value. And, if it fits and if it's, plus it correlates for me, so that makes sense. So I like this. It depends on who I get for my 5th running back. If I'm comfortable with the player that I get, I'm only going 5 running backs. If I wait until the end of the draft, maybe I get Ty Chandler and someone else, then I'm going to have to go 6. So we'll see how this kind of keeps playing out here. But it's getting more and more likely that this is going to be a 2-5-9-2 most likely build. Or 2-5-8-3. I might need 3 tight ends as it sits right now. I was going to pick Pat Freiermuth there, but with the value, I might have taken Antonio Gibson anyways with the value and correlation. So I might have to go with 3 tight ends. So we could be looking at a 2-5-8-3 build, which is probably how it's going to go. We'll see. Tyler Algier, I think that's a little early, isn't it? $142. That's really early. Interesting. Matt Stafford. Really interesting what this guy's doing. Reached heavily on Mark Andrews. Got some value with Josh Allen. Reach for Matt Stafford. Reach for Dalvin. Reach for Tyler Algier. Weird room. Thought this was going to be a bit of a normal room, but this is a weird one. This guy hasn't gotten out of line. Did take George Pickens, I guess, to bring it back. Is Kenny Pickett 29th overall? Must have been some sort of weird Q mistake. I don't know. And then, yeah, brings it back with George Pickens. Okay. Hopefully this doesn't get canceled. I don't think it will now, though, that it's kind of played out. I don't think it'll get canceled as it sits. But if it did, this is all that would do it, this Kenny Pickett. Doesn't look like anything crazy's happened outside of that. So I think it could just be a mistake. I've made mistakes like that where I've had a guy in my queue and then the timer runs out and I take a guy 100 picks ahead of ADP. I've done it. I'm sure we've all done it. So it happens. I just don't know why Kenny Pickett would be in his queue. Maybe he planned to take him way late and screwed up. I don't know. It happens. It is what it is. It's just a little strange. Kendrick Miller's getting some steam for the Jamal Williams drafters like myself. I'm not sure what I'm doing with this backfield right this second. I've kind of avoided it unless I'm getting extreme value on all three. If I am, I'm taking Kamara again. I was taking him a ton early, kind of soured on him a little bit. I've started taking him again. I wish I got him a little bit more. We'll see what this suspension looks like. I'm thinking 2 games. I thought it would be, maybe he gets 4 appeals to 2 with him meeting with Roger Goodell. Maybe he just works out a deal for 2 with Roger. That's a possibility. That is the reason to meet with Roger Goodell, to say, hey, let's avoid, an arbitrator. Let's just talk this through. What do you think is fair? I'm getting suspended. Let me know how many games. What do we think? If they land on 2 games, great. I think that's probably what he should get. Makes sense to me. We'll see, but we will see. Romeo Dobbs. If I take Dobbs, I'd have to bring it back with Jordan Love. I might be just stacking up this Denver game. Don't think there'd be any reason for either of these guys to take Russell Wilson. So I'm going to take Dulcich here, pair him up with Jerry Jeudy and Quentin Johnson, and then wrap it up with Russell Wilson as long as I don't get sniped on him for some wild reason. Garrett Wilson, that makes sense. Easily bring back Daniel Jones. That's no problem. Does this guy want to take a naked Russell Wilson for no good reason? Happens all the time, but we'll see. Wouldn't make much sense, but wouldn't surprise me. Week 7s and 9s and a couple 5s. This is like a weekly winners looking type of a build. So I got to fade 2 picks. I think I'll be fine unless this guy takes him. Okay, there goes Goff. There's no way this guy takes Russell Wilson. Just would literally make less than 0 cents. Guess he does have Javonte Williams. Again, nothing would shock me in these drafts, especially this one. All right, we're taking Russell Wilson. There we go. So got a fairly big bet on week 17, Russell Wilson, Denver, Russell Wilson, Jerry Jeudy, Greg Dulcich versus Quentin Johnston. If there's an injury to Mike Will and Quentin Johnston's that guy, week 17, bingo bango. I like that. I'll be taking Irv Smith Jr. when it wraps back around. Pretty much for sure to fill out that Cincinnati stack. And then I'll have to try to bring it back with someone Valdez-Scantling. That's, Richie James, Justin Ross, maybe something like that. I'll have to bring it back with some sort of chief because I have nothing as it sits right now. Maybe would have taken Jerick McKinnon if he were available at 54, which would have been pretty well impossible. I like this build. Again, definitely a little bit unique with all the value that I'm getting in a lot of places. Haven't reached for anybody. Literally anybody. Haven't picked literally anybody ahead of ADP, unless you want to call that ahead of ADP by 1.6 picks. And then I've gotten a round of value on 3 of my picks. So definitely should be a unique lineup. Definitely unique for me. And I think this could look really interesting. This guy doesn't even take Van Jefferson to bring it back with his reach on Matt Stafford. At least this guy, when he reached on Pickett, he takes Pickens. This just makes less than no sense. Sometimes these draft rooms are just a little hokey, but we deal with it. And you find value, you pivot, you do what you can to make it work. Valdez-Scantling, I was hoping somehow he might make it to me, but not surprised that he didn't. That's all right. That'll happen. Oh, my guys, tight ends. You could use a tight end. We'll see how many tight ends are left between picks here. I might be able to get away with something here. That would be epic if I did. Could take Devin Singletary here as well and then just be done at running back. That's definitely on the table. I definitely need more wide receivers. Again, that's for sure. I think I might be able to get away with Irv Smith and Dulcich, but I don't like that. I think I'll add a third. Can get one really late, so I'm not super concerned about that. Done at quarterback. That's enough for me. We'll see on running back. Depends on what happens between this pick and mine. But I might take Devin Singletary and be done at running back. Everett. I think I'll be okay if I don't take Irv Smith here. This guy is not taking a tight end. That would be really silly if he did. This guy could take one, but it makes sense for him to take Laporta. If he does want a tight end, it makes sense to take Laporta. You could take Taysom Hill too. I'm taking KJ Osborne because I need a Minnesota Viking anyways. Bye week works well. That's perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. So now, as long as I don't get sniped on Irv Smith for some silly reason, if this guy wants a tight end, he should take Laporta or could wait and take, Jake Ferguson for Dak Prescott, or both. Take Laporta and Ferguson to pair with Dulcich or with Freiermuth. Laporta, perfect. I should be able to get Irv Smith here. Wonderful. It's exactly what I wanted to happen. As long as this guy doesn't take him for zero reason, then I should be all right to take Irv Smith. And then I got to bring it back with a chief, either Richie James as it sits, either Richie James or Justin Ross. Not sure I love either of those picks, but I like the team. You got to like the offense, that's for sure. I like the way this team's shaping up. I really do. I really do like the way this team's shaping up here. Kind of unexpected. I thought it was going to be in shambles a little bit with the way this draft was going. I was worried about quarterback, but Joe Burrow slips 10 points. So I'll take that and then work it out, which I did. Got Tyler Boyd and Irv Smith. Can't ask for anything better than that, realistically. That's relatively unique too. There's no T. Higgins, there's no Jamar Chase. So week 17 against the Chiefs, a little bit of a shootout. 2 touchdowns to Tyler Boyd in the slot. Irv Smith catches another one. Chase and Higgins get shut out somehow. Off the Schneid wins $3 million. Bingo bango. At this point in the draft, there's no reach. There is no reach here. 14th to the 18th round. Pick whoever the hell you want. Pick for correlation. Pick for stacking. Whatever you got to do. Roster construction. Do what you got to do in these rounds. In my opinion, there's no reaching unless you're taking a guy with an ADP of 215 that barely gets drafted. Then you can wait till at least the 17th round, 16th round, something like that. Give yourself a little bit of ADP value or wiggle room there. But pick whoever the hell you want in these rounds. Just make it work for your team. Make it make sense. A lot of times that's what I say when I'm drafting and people just do crazy shit. Just make it make sense, man. That's all. Like, this makes sense. This guy taking Sam Laporta with the way he built his team makes perfect sense. That's great. That's who you should pick. I can plan for you taking Sam Laporta, and he did. So, and it makes sense for his team, makes sense for his build. So make it make sense is all I care about when we're talking about roster construction. So what do I need to do for correlation here? Done at quarterback. And that's it for sure. That's the only for sure that I'm done at is quarterback. So I need some bringbacks here. I wouldn't mind a New York Jet, but don't think that happens unless I bring it back with Mecole Hardman maybe. I could use Arizona Cardinal, which I could do with Trey McBride at tight end. Got a Viking for my Green Bay and Cincinnati. Denver Chargers like that. I have a lot of correlation, actually, so I'm not super concerned right now as it sits. Not super concerned with any more correlation. I actually didn't quite think I had that much. Now it's about roster construction for me. And who do I think I need to enter my lineup? Not necessarily on a week in, week out basis, but spike weeks. Who can and who would enter my lineup? And I don't want to get too bogged down by bye weeks. I could do one more week 9 bye week at wide receiver. I could do one more bye week 5 at running back, but then I'm done. Then I'm taking 6 running backs. So for this, one of my highest owned, I've been drafting them all the way up here. I was drafting them a ton at, 215 ADP. I got so much value on this guy. I think there's still value to be had. I'm taking him again, Zamir White. And I think I'm done. I think I'm done at running back. Actually, I think I'm done there. And I think I'm going to go with a third tight end and 2 more wide receivers. So it's between Richie James and Justin Ross here. And I might just take a risk on the hype. I might just buy into the hype here with Justin Ross. I actually really, really, really liked his tape out of college. I was just, as everybody was, ridiculously hyper concerned about that injury. When it's your neck, neck, back, that sort of a thing, the wrong hit, and you might not walk again, let alone play football. That's why Chris Carson had to retire. I said the exact same thing about Chris Carson. It's just not worth it. If you can't friggin' walk, what does it matter if you had a good football career, right? He already did have a good career. So I'm gonna buy the hype. This is my second share of Justin Ross. getting first team reps in practice. That's not for nothing, man. That's not for nothing with this team who's struggling to have, a number one alpha wide receiver. That very well could be Justin Ross. Without that injury in college, I thought he was a potential, second round pick without the injury. Obviously, it was a massive injury, led to him going undrafted. He sat out all of last year. Practice squad for the Chiefs, got healthy, looks good. I'm going to buy the hype. I'm going to take a shot on him late. It's 16th round, and I could have got him later realistically if we're looking at his ADP, which has, risen quite a bit, and it will continue to rise. But that's still a value. And like I just said, who cares at this point in the draft? Take whoever the hell you want. Take whoever makes sense. Take correlation. He correlates with my lineup. I got week 17 matchup now. That's all the correlation I need realistically. Now it's just about finishing up my roster construction. I need one more wide receiver, one more tight end, and we're going to finish off with that 2-5-8-3 build that I was talking about earlier. I really would have liked Ty Conklin. I've been talking him up a fair amount. I think he could be this year's Evan Ingram. Really, really like Ty Conklin, but I figured he'd get sniped on me. Not even a snipe, but man, this Moneyball team. So there's one where you could have waited to 211 probably to take Israel Abanikanda. How many running backs does this guy have? Jeez. 2, 7, 6, 1 as it sits. You better be done or not. I don't really care what you do at this point, to be honest with you, but I would be done at running back there. Strange room. These rooms are getting stranger and stranger, to be honest with you. I thought they were going to get a little sharper, a little more normal. That's why I put a few comments in the description of this video on Twitter. The draft rooms are supposed to be getting sharp in August, right? That's the when they're at their sharpest, allegedly, or maybe not. Maybe actually it's not. It's not at all. Never mind. It is, it's more casual. But the weird thing is teams that win get drafted earlier when rooms are at their sharpest, when only sickos are drafting, right? And that's the time when teams that win get drafted. Maybe it's because correlation happens because everybody's just correlating for their own stacks. I don't know, but it's really strange. It's really, really strange how this works. And now the draft rooms are getting a little strange, to say the least. Yeah, it's an odd one. Like I said, just make it make sense. I really wanted Jalen Hyatt. This guy who's been drafting like a maniac takes Jalen Hyatt off me. That's annoying. Really wanted Jalen Hyatt. But I might just have to go with my favorite wide receiver. We'll see. Do I have any Buffalo Bills? No, I don't. I think I'll be taking either Mike Gesicki or Trey McBride right here. Do I take the correlation? Or do I take Mike Gesicki? Bad team, probably a bad offense, but he might just get peppered with targets, Trey McBride. And I like the correlation. I got to take Mike Gesicki here. He's just better, and he could have a huge season. I got to take Mike Gesicki. Done at tight end. All I got is a wide receiver. Who am I taking? It's between two guys. It's either going to be Mecole Hardman for a little bit of correlation, plus some, spike week potential, or my favorite wide receiver. Can't take Hardman now. There he goes. Who else could I take for correlation or good things? I've been taking a lot of Tutu Atwell these days. I think he has there goes Terrace Marshall. My two guys, those are the two wide receivers I wanted, man. What are you doing? You watching the channel? Jeez. 3-4-8-3 with those running backs. Hey, okay. We'll see what happens. Those are my two wide receivers I wanted. Now do I take Tutu? What do I do here? Michael Wilson correlation. Greg Dortch correlation. I think I'm going to take Tutu Atwell. I've been taking him a fair amount lately. I like him. I think he could have, Robert Woods type season from a couple years ago in this offense. And this is a bad defense. The LA Rams have a really bad defense. So they're going to have to throw up some points. And, he could finally figure this out. Early second round pick a couple years ago. He could finally figure some things out. If there's anything to Cooper Kupp getting hurt, he should be fine, I'm sure. But, hamstrings kind of linger. High ankle sprain from last year. Maybe he's getting a little nicked up. Hard to say. But I don't mind Tutu Atwell. I think at the very least, he's going to be the wide receiver 3. Should be able to get some spike weeks because he gets those 50-yard bombs. He got 2 of them last year, 1 for a touchdown. So that he should, regardless, he should enter my lineup at some point. At some point, I should be able to get Tutu Atwell, points on my team. That's a big reason why I've been taking him in the last round, 18th round. He's honestly, he's probably more likely to enter my lineup than Terrace Marshall, who I've been taking nonstop. So I'll say that. But if Terrace Marshall hits, like I think he can hit, he's going to be, an every kind of week type of contributor, or every other week. He's going to be in my lineup a fair amount. But let's go through the roster here quick. If you're in the chat and you drafted, let me know. We'll take a look at your team as well. At quarterback, Joe Burrow, 10 picks past ADP, Russell Wilson. I like that. I like that group. Tight end, Greg Dulcich with my quarterback, or Smith with the quarterback. Mike Gesicki just to kind of help out. I need these guys playing off each other. This is what I do when I draft three tight ends. I never correlate bye weeks with 3 tight ends. Why? There's no point. There's no point in doing it. You can find value at whatever bye week you want. Realistically, you can find guys to plug in and get and get value and not overlap. You want as much opportunity for one of these tight ends to enter your lineup as many weeks as possible. And that's what I'm doing here. Running backs, Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, Rashad White, Antonio Gibson, and Zamir White. A.J. Brown, Deebo Samuel, Jerry Jeudy, Quentin Johnston, Tyler Boyd, KJ Osborne, Justin Ross, and Tutu Atwell. I like this team. Definitely unique. Like I said, definitely unique to me. Oh, get Gardner Minshew sighting. Gardner Minshew sighting. That's not the worst idea right there. Don't despise that. Let's take a look at this team quick. Geez, Justin Fields, Indy quarterbacks, pairs with Jonathan Taylor, who may or may not be on this team come season start. Damian Harris, Khalil Herbert, Leonard Fournette's going to get signed somewhere with everything that seems to be going on right now. T. Higgins, DJ Moore pairs with Justin Fields. Michael Pittman pairs with the Indies. Cortland Sutton, another Chicago. Zay Hodgins, another Chicago. Taysom Hill, Jelani Woods. Big bets on Chicago Indy. Not sure I love the bets on Chicago Indy, but it's definitely different, definitely unique. Don't hate it, but yeah. There you go, guys. That's all we got for tonight. We're going to leave it there. Appreciate you guys popping in. Appreciate a little bit of chat there. Go ahead, if you don't mind, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, maybe share it with a friend, that sort of thing. Help me out. We'll be back next Wednesday on schedule, 7 p.m. in the Mountain Time, 9 p.m. in the East. Like I always say, with Off the Schneid, if you're afraid to be wrong, you'll never be right. Hopefully tonight we were right on this draft. Hopefully Off the Schneid hits $3 million. Let's go. Leave a comment if you could. We'll see you next week.